On October 10, 2025, an announcement came out of Oslo that was supposed to be a celebration of peace. But instead, it basically threw a spotlight on just how close a nation was to a total political storm, putting Venezuela at a terrifying crossroads. So what exactly happened to push this country right to the edge? Let's get into it.
So, officially, the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize went to Venezuela's opposition leader, María Corina Machado, and the official reason was for her fight for democratic rights. But the real story, the thing that really sets the stage for this whole crisis, lies in the circumstances surrounding this award.
Yeah, you heard that right. At the very moment she was being celebrated on the world stage for her peaceful struggle, María Corina Machado was a fugitive in her own country. She was literally living in hiding, under threat from the ruling regime. So this wasn't just some award. This was a massive geopolitical statement.
So who is this person at the heart of all this international drama? To really get what's going on, you've got to understand her story.
You know, María Corina Machado didn't actually start out in politics. She began in civic society, founding an organization to help street kids. Her popularity just exploded, leading to this record-breaking election win to the National Assembly back in 2011. But as her star rose, the resistance got fierce. I mean, she was stripped of her seat, and then later, after a landslide win in the opposition primaries in 2023, she was just banned from holding office entirely. So the Nobel Prize, well, it didn't find her in a presidential palace, it found her in the shadows.
And you really can't separate Machado's story from her country's. The prize gets its real urgency from the profound crisis that's been gripping Venezuela, a nation that's been teetering on the brink for years now.
The scale of the collapse, it's just staggering. We are not talking about thousands. We are talking about millions of people who have been forced to flee their homes. This has created one of the largest displacement crises in the entire world. That number, it represents families torn apart and a nation that is literally hemorrhaging its own people.
And for the people who are still there, daily life is a struggle for survival. We're talking about hospitals without basic medicine, constant power outages, and just systemic corruption. And all of this is happening while the government mismanages the largest proven oil reserves on the planet. This completely untenable situation is one of two disastrous paths Venezuela is facing.
But if the status quo is a slow-motion collapse, the alternative being talked about in some circles is a fast, catastrophic one: foreign military intervention.
Now, according to our source material, U.S. President Donald Trump has been pretty vocal about this possibility. His warnings of decisive action and reported contingency planning have put the entire region on high alert, making the threat of military action feel very, very real.
So why is this option so incredibly dangerous? Well, the comparison to Iraq tells you everything you need to know. Unlike the open deserts, Venezuela is a country of dense jungles and highlands, perfect terrain for a long, drawn-out insurgency. Any intervention wouldn't be some quick surgical strike. No way. It would almost certainly become a slower, bloodier, and far more chaotic conflict that could destabilize the entire region.
And this brings us right back to the prize. The source argues that the Nobel Committee's choice was totally deliberate and strategic. By honoring Machado, a champion of peaceful transition, instead of a figure like Trump, who is advocating for a more forceful approach, they were implicitly rejecting a military solution. They were pointing the world toward another way.
So if the status quo is unacceptable and war is a catastrophe, what is that third path? The Nobel Prize is being framed as a kind of political compass, pointing toward a negotiated solution.
The core of this proposed solution is something called a joint interim government. It sounds complicated, but the concept is actually pretty straightforward. Bring both the ruling regime and the opposition into a temporary power-sharing body with a single mandate, steering the country back toward democracy.
So, how would it actually work? Well, the plan breaks down into 3 clear steps. First, form that joint interim government. Second, within 1 year, hold free and fair elections for a new assembly, giving the Venezuelan people their voice back. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, you have to ensure international observers oversee the entire process to guarantee it's all legitimate.
Now, a plan like this can't succeed in a vacuum. The international community has a massive role to play by providing incentives, the carrots, if you will. The U.S. could offer sanctions relief, much-needed humanitarian aid, and access to oil markets. Meanwhile, Venezuela's neighbors in Latin America can provide the guarantee of neutrality and regional stability, helping to build trust on all sides.
So, the Nobel Prize isn't a magic wand. It doesn't just solve the crisis overnight. Instead, it serves as something much more powerful, a final, critical opportunity at a pivotal moment.
This really gets to the prize's dual meaning. On one hand, it's a stark warning that Venezuela is approaching a point of no return. But on the other, it's a beacon of hope, a signal that a path of diplomacy and compromise is still open, if the parties are brave enough to take it.
And ultimately, beyond all the geopolitics and strategic calculations, the prize offers something more fundamental. For a nation that has endured so much suffering, this international recognition provides something that has been in desperately short supply, a simple reason to hope.
And so we're left with this question. Will history judge this Nobel Prize as the catalyst that finally sparks a lasting peace? Or will it be remembered as just a footnote in the tragic story of a nation's fall? The choice, for Venezuela and for the world, is now.